Everyone is muted right now, but if you have a question, you can always unmute yourself. Or you could put it in the chat as well. And the format of this little workshop today will be, we'll kind of just ground together for a moment, just take a few breaths and arrive in the space. And then I'm going to share with you some of the practices that I like to do that feel nourishing, that help to take care of me. And then I'm going to share with you some of the offerings that I have coming up. And I'll save a little bit of time at the end for a little Q&A. So if you have any questions about the things we've talked about, you could write them down or put them in the chat on the screen, and I will be sure to get to those at the end of class. So we have a few people in the room who I can't see. Some of them I know and some of them I don't. Anyway, just getting set up for this. Good morning, friend. As I was getting set up to begin today, I was feeling a bit of nervous energy, a little bit of anxiousness. So I had to really stop and take a few breaths for myself just to ground down. And so I thought it would be nice to start this way as a group. So if you want to come to your comfortable seat, I like to light a candle when I'm beginning a meditation or any kind of, personal practice, just because it helps to kind of ritualize the space and make it feel more sacred. And actually, one of the practices that I didn't have it on my list to talk about today, but it's a really nice practice to actually, in a dark room, look at a candle flame. It's a Kriya practice, and it makes your eyes water, and it's just very cleansing, and it helps with your eyesight. I also like to burn a little Palo Santo. But whatever you like to do to kind of ritualize your space and set the tone so that you know that you're about to do some work, that's a good thing to do right now. And you could be seated in a chair or on a meditation cushion, whatever feels suitable for you. But just root down through your sitting bones and then lift up through the crown of your head. And if you feel comfortable to do so, you can just close your eyes. And notice that as you continually root down through your sitting bones, as if you're growing roots into the earth, and at the same time you continuously lift up through the crown of your head, there's a natural lengthening and illumination of the spine. And sitting up tall in a dignified way, you can just start to notice your breath. Allow it to be easy, breathing in and out through the nose. And we'll take a cleansing breath together, inhaling through the nose to fill up all the way down to the pelvis, through the belly, the low rib cage, the middle ribs, all the way up to the collarbones. And when you get to the top, hold the breath for just a moment. And then open the mouth to sigh it out. And then return to normal breathing in and out through the nose. And at the bottom of your next exhale, just before you inhale, notice what you feel like. Is anything missing right now? In this moment, you have everything you need. A lot of us face anxiety or depression, and this is the result of leaning too far into the future, which causes anxiety, or lingering in the past, hanging on to what's already happened. And this is causing a depression. But when we're present, when we're right here in this moment with our breath, there is nothing missing. There is no need to change anything. There is no problem. When you're ready, you can blink your eyes open. And right now, I can see all of you that have your cameras on. So I'll just ask you to get a feel for the room. How many of you face anxiety? No one? I do. I do. I mean, most of us spend our lives putting out fires, honestly. We're constantly having to react and, shift around and fix things that are going wrong. And so we're often not comfortable. And the antidote to anxiety is routine, knowing what is going to happen. Now, I say routine, but really, I'm going to throw that word out because routine has this feeling of rigidity and a feeling of almost like it's a chore. And so we're going to replace the word routine with rituals, because the way we want to take care of ourselves is not in the same way that we, pay our bills and take out the trash. Those things are routines that we have to do, right? When we take care of ourselves, we want it to be a ritual, because a ritual by its own nature is healing. So I just wanted to ask you that before I share my screen, because when I do so, I won't be able to see all of your faces. Okay, hang on one second. It's not going the way I thought it would. Oh, there we go. Nice. Okay, bear with me. I think I know what I'm doing here. So I wanted to share these practices with my community because they've brought me a lot of peace, and they've helped me to ritualize my life in a way where it feels good to be me. And so I just thought that by sharing these practices, that that everyone can feel the same kind of relief that I've gotten from them. And also, I wanted you to kind of experience this because it's like a mini retreat. When we go on a yoga retreat, we don't sit down and have a 1 hour session where we learn about self-care practices. But you spend the week getting to know yourself and learning how to take care of yourself. So I wanted to share this so that you would get an idea of what kind of things you leave a retreat with. So I wanted to start with this quote. It's Ralph Waldo Emerson: "Adopt the pace of nature. Her secret is patience." And if you think about it, nature never rushes, but nothing is left undone. So this is missing from our daily lives. We're running around so quickly and we're so eager to get to the next moment that we're not appreciating the magic of this one. And so by slowing down, we can really begin to enjoy the moment that we're having right now, because honestly, the future and the past, it's imagination and memory. It's not real. The only thing that's real is this moment. So I'm going to share with you some of the self-care practices that I enjoy. Most of them are either meditations or Ayurvedic practices. And the idea is not for you to feel that you need to adopt everything that I do. The idea is for you to come up with your own rituals, your own self-care practices. And some of these you can try on. If you like them, then you can stick to it. And if it doesn't work for you, then you can discard them. You might even hear someone say like, no, that one's not for me. I'm not going to try it. And that's fine. But the idea is that you create a structure for yourself so that in the mornings when you wake up, you're going to do these certain things. And if it's a busy day and you have to miss some of them, you don't need to badger yourself about it. It's not a big deal. It's more or less just creating a routine for yourself that feels nourishing. And this should not add any stress to your life. So if you're already like, okay, I'm taking care of kids and I've got to get to work and I don't know how I'm going to get all these things done. You only want to add what you feel that you can maintain. So don't feel like you need to add a 1 hour meditation practice and 19 Ayurvedic practices to your day, because there's only so many hours and we have a lot of things to do. So ritualizing your alone time, this is like I was saying, we're not trying to create a routine, because a routine is like a chore and you're not going to enjoy it. If you think of it as a routine, you want to think of it as a ritual that you're doing to nourish yourself, to feel good in your body, to feel safe, to feel grounded, to feel loved. There's a lot of women in the group. I only see Rohan. I'm not sure who the other couple of people are. So I know there are some men in the group as well. Some men who have signed up, but I think it's in women's nature to be nurturing. Women are mothers often, and I think all of the women in the room besides myself are mothers, and that requires so much effort and so much care that you have to give to someone else. And so there often is this feeling of almost shame or guilt if you're taking time out for yourself, when you feel like, I should be giving this time to the children, to my husband, to, maybe you're a boss and you oversee a big group of people and you feel that you should be giving your time to them, but you can't pour from an empty cup. So taking care of yourself is the first step in being able to successfully take care of other people. So there should be no guilt or shame around really taking excellent care of yourself. I was going to share my morning routine, which may or may not be for you. I have a meditation coach that I meet with. Just going to let Rohan back in. I think he switched devices. Welcome back. So I have a meditation coach that I meet with every 40 days, and I get a new program, which is based on my needs in that moment. And so I do that program for 40 days, and then I meet with him again, and I get a different program. He's a teacher that I met in India, but he lives in Portugal. So we meet on Zoom like this, and we talk about what's going on in my life. It's kind of like therapy. And then he gives me a program which involves Vedic meditation, pranayama, kriya, japa, and mantra. So if you don't know what these words are, I'll just give you the brief rundown. You have probably heard of meditation. It's ultimately just observing what the mind has been up to. So you just sit down, just like we did at the beginning of the workshop. We just sat on our cushion, closed our eyes, took a breath, and just felt what it feels like to be here right now. And the Vedic meditation practices that I do involve a bija seed mantra. So it's just one sound that I listen to in my head on repeat. And it's like a mantra. It trains the mind to be in one place. So the mind is jumping all over and going to different places. When you use a mantra, it just trains the mind to be where it is. Pranayama is a breathing exercise that it's multiple breathing exercises that we use in yoga a lot. And it's interesting because I've been studying Sanskrit a lot lately, and there's this misconception about pranayama that it's a combination of the word prana and the word yama. Prana is life force or energy, and we bring that into the body through the breath. And yama is restraint or restriction. You've probably heard of the yamas and niyamas if you're a yogi. And so yama is a restraint. It's something we're kind of holding tight and not letting move. But that's not it's actually a combination of prana and ama, which is about expansion. So it's not about restricting the breath, it's about expanding the breath. And we'll take a quick pranayama exercise right now that I find really helpful. It's called box breathing. And it's where you take a 4-count inhale, then you're going to hold that breath for 4 counts. Then you're going to exhale for 4 counts, and then you hold for 4 counts. So we can just try it together right now. Eyes can be open or closed. You'll just exhale all the air out of your lungs. Inhale for 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold the breath. 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale. 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold the breath. 4, 3, 2, 1. And then you would continue like this. So this is one example of a pranayama exercise. There's many, many, many different breathing exercises that you can do. And if you need some resources to learn more about that, I can share those with you. Kriya is also part of my morning routine, which is, these are energetic cleansing practices. And there's a lot of different Kriyas. There was one that I was going to share with you this morning. Well, like sometimes Kriya and pranayama can overlap with each other because and a lot of Kriya practices involve the breath. So for example, if you're a yogi and you practice Kapalabhati, which is the snapping in of the belly and the forced exhale through the nose, like this is a pranayama and a Kriya because it's an energetic cleansing and it's a breathing exercise. But there's other Kriyas that are like, one that I'll talk about later is like tongue scraping is a Kriya. Or Nadi Shodhana is another Kriya, which is also a pranayama because that's the alternate nostril breathing. Japa meditation is also part of what I like to practice. You use your mala beads or a rosary for that. And the proper way that you would do it is you keep the first finger uninvolved. You don't want the first finger to touch your beads. You hang them over the second or sometimes the third finger. Sometimes people use the third finger because there is an acupressure point on the inside of the third finger. I find that finger is not that smart. So I like to use the second one. It's easier to hold the beads, but you use a mantra, which could be something simple like Soham or even just Om is a mantra. So every time you say that sound to yourself, you would move one bead. And then by the time you get all the way through the loop back to the beginning, you've said your mantra 108 times. And sometimes when you have a short one, this can happen pretty quickly, but sometimes your mantra might be quite long. And then it takes maybe half an hour to get through all 108 cycles. And the mantras are for different things. It depends on what you're working on in the moment. Sometimes the mantras are for certain deities or for certain holidays or to draw in certain things like abundance or love. So depending on what your needs are at any given time, you would be working with a different mantra. So my daily non-negotiables I have listed here. These will not be the ones that necessarily work for you, but these are the things that I want to do every single day, that I make it a point to do every single day. They don't take me much time. The meditation one is probably the one that takes me the longest because I just told you about my meditation practice, which involves those 5 things. That usually takes me between 40 minutes and an hour to get through. But even if you committed to 5-minute meditation each morning, I think you would start to see the benefits of that. And maybe it would start to grow and then it's 10 minutes, and then eventually it could grow into more. Maybe you discover that a short meditation is all you need. Gratitude is another really important thing for me because they say that a grateful heart is a magnet for miracles. And I definitely believe that's true. So part of my practice as I'm sitting in the morning between when I do my Kriya and when I'm moving to Japa, I take a moment to call in, I kind of call them my small council or my inner circle. And it's a combination of my ancestors, my spirit guides, my guardian angels, everyone who's in my corner with me, supporting me, showing me love, holding me up when I can't do it for myself. I call them in, understanding that they're within me. And I list everything I'm grateful for in that moment. And I make it a point to not list the same 5 things every day. I really put some thought into it and think about what I'm grateful for, because the universe will give you, like, when you recognize what you're grateful for, you get more of it. And so I'm grateful to have a healthy body, to have a home that I can live in, to enjoy the simple pleasures in life. And by being aware of the things that I'm grateful for, it expands them. It gives them more space in my life. It draws more of that into me. When we spend our time focusing on the things we don't like, which is very easy to do, like there's right now, I think some construction going on outside, there's a beeping and some trucks and banging. And if I focus on that, then I'm going to become more aware of it and it's going to aggravate me more. But I could also remember that there's peace inside of me and I can move in that direction and that's going to grow. Stretching is important for me. I need to feel comfortable in my body. Sometimes that means going to a yoga class. Sometimes it just means folding over, just a forward fold. And if that's all I have time for, then that's enough. I'm not going to berate myself for not getting to the rest of my practice. I'm going to do exactly what I can do on that given day. Ginger water is another thing. I always start my day with that. I'll talk about that when we get to the Ayurvedic practices. Observing silence, I find really helpful because the mind is so crazy and chaotic. There are times like at a yoga teacher training, or if you're on a retreat where you might spend a full 24 hours in silence. There are retreats that you go on to spend 10 days in silence. That means no media, no reading, no speaking, no communicating with the eyes. It's a time for you to go completely inside and discover what's been going on in there. And part of observing silence for me, which I take moments throughout my day to do this, when I'm observing silence, it's not just about not talking, not listening to the radio or the TV, not listening to music. It's like I place my cup down gently. When I close the door, I close the door mindfully so it's not banging shut. So I'm observing silence in all the ways that I can. And I find it to be such a gentle, kind of wholesome, nourishing practice that makes me feel good. And it just makes me more mindful so that I'm not banging around and kicking things when I'm walking by them. May or may not be useful for you. I really enjoy it. I also make it a point to tidy up a little bit every day. I don't like to do a big cleaning unless I have to. So I'll just wipe off the counter when I'm finished, or I work in a way that I don't make a big mess because uh, I need to have a tidy space in order for my mind to work optimally. And that's true for everyone. If you keep a messy room, then your mind is going to be chaotic. So just putting your things away, having a dedicated place that everything goes and putting it there when you're finished with it you're gonna feel like you've probably felt this before after you clean your home. You're just like, oh, it feels great in here, So you can let that be a part of your daily practice. Recognizing beauty, it's all around us. Often we don't see it if we're not looking for it, but once you start looking for it, it's everywhere. And actually, I started this practice at the beginning of the year where I write down, like once a week, I have a reminder set in my phone where I write down the best thing that happened to me that week and I put it in the jar so that at the end of the year, I can go back through the jar and enjoy those things again. And when you start looking around, like I wasn't expecting this sort of hidden benefit that when I started that practice, I was going to start looking everywhere around me, like, what's the best thing this week? Where's the beauty? What's the amazing thing that's happening? And you start to find that there's stuff going on all the time that you can enjoy, that you can be grateful for, that might be good enough to go into the jar. And then those things start to grow when you pay attention to them. Attention is currency. That's why you pay attention. Another thing is prioritizing joy. Like I have a slide coming up where I've just got the things that bring me joy, I've listed them, and I make it a point every single day to do at least one of those things, maybe several of those things. And the things that bring me joy is not going to be the same thing for you. So you just have to know what it is that brings you joy. Sacred pause. This is one that Tara Brach talks about a lot. And it's something that Buddhist monks practice, like in monasteries and temples. And, you sit down to meditate for 30 minutes, right? But it might take 29 minutes for you to really settle in and feel stillness and silence and peace. But a sacred pause, you can do anytime, and it only takes a moment. And the way that the monks use it or do it is anytime they hear a bell ring, or like if your phone chimes or somebody rings the doorbell, you just stop what you're doing and you listen until you can't hear it anymore. And then you move on. So it's interesting because it's like doing a 30-minute meditation, but you do it right now. and you drop all the way into stillness. You don't shift around and try to get comfortable and make sure everything is just right. You're just immediately, you just stop doing everything. You can do it while you're driving, while you're working, before you go to bed, any time of day. This is a perfect thing. And so I like to do it anytime I hear a ding or a bell, any kind of chime. I just stop and listen. And sometimes, like, that, especially if it's like a singing bowl, if somebody taps it, it's a good 45 seconds you might be listening before you can't hear that vibration anymore, but it just makes you present. Also, learning. I love to learn every single day. So I make it a point to commit, a half an hour of time to reading, listening to an audio book or a podcast that is like nourishing my brain. Um, any type of learning, I'm gonna make sure that I get that into every day, and then rest. This is like one of my top priorities, because without enough rest, I'm a monster. And I know that. So I'm just going to make sure that at night I get 7 to 8 hours. And if I don't get enough sleep at night, I'm going to take a nap during the day. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with taking a nap every single day, because I feel better once I've woken back up. I'm refreshed. I'm ready to go again. So some of the Ayurvedic practices, this isn't an Ayurveda class, so I just wanted to we won't go into depth on a lot of these things. I just wanted to share them with you, and you can look more into the practices, or if you need resources, you can let me know and I can share them with you. But Ayurveda is the sister science to yoga. It's a nutrition-based science, and it helps if you know what your body type is, what your dosha is. There's Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, and we each are imbalanced in one or two of those doshas. And so when you know which one you're imbalanced in, you can eat and nourish yourself in a way that brings you back into balance. So the practices that I'm going to talk about are good for everyone. You don't need to know what your dosha is in order to use these practices, because a lot of the Ayurvedic kind of science is behind what we eat. But we should also be aware that we absorb through our skin. This is our biggest organ. So a lot of these practices involve oiling the skin. And that oil, that fat, has to be metabolized by the body, because we're absorbing it through the skin into the body. But we're also consuming what we watch, what we listen to, what we surround ourselves with, the energy that we put ourselves into. And so these are all parts of that science. So some good morning practices is Nasya is the first one. It's nasal oiling. And I like to use this Atreya Anutailam. It's I can share this resource with you. This one's easy to get in the US. And you basically just I do it before I get out of bed. You put one drop in each nostril and you just lay there. You don't need to snort it or sniff it. But we neglect our nasal passages. And when you oil the nasal passages, you're restoring the natural microbiome. This is preventing any kind of airborne diseases. It's good if you have allergies or any kind of respiratory disorder. It's actually, it gets into your whole ENT. So by moisturizing your nasal passages, this is actually going to help with throat pain, headache, jaw, neck, shoulder pain. It's good for hair and skin health, brain health and function. It's going to prevent neurological disorders. And the nasal passages is actually the only direct passageway to the brain. There's no, I think it's called the blood-brain barrier. And that's actually why people put drugs in their nose, because it goes straight to the brain. And so because in the West, we don't care for our nasal passages, we just neglect them unless we're blowing our nose or something. But this is a great way to sort of nourish those passages so that your brain is functioning optimally, your ears, even this area around your eyes is going to not be so puffy and dark and swollen. The only time you want to avoid that is if you have an aggressive cold, or after you've taken alcohol. So if you've just had one drink, it's okay, because you could do this in the morning or at night. But I prefer it in the morning. So obviously when you wake up, you have not just drank alcohol. But something about when you've consumed alcohol, it's not effective. So they recommend not doing it then. Abhyanga is self-massage. And so if you If you're used to lotioning your skin, Abhyanga would take the place of that. So it's essentially using oil to moisturize the skin, but you're also giving yourself a bit of a massage. And you really want to focus on the navel, the joints, so like the elbows, shoulders, wrists, knees, hips, because this is going to nourish those areas and help them function better. But when we're massaging ourselves, this is the ultimate self-care because it's releasing oxytocin. It's soothing for the nervous system. When you oil the skin, it's also helping with like vitamin D. What's the word? Absorption, I guess, or it's helping your body to use the vitamin D that it has, and it's also helping to repair UV damage, and um, it's helping like when you go out inside. It's almost like a natural sun protector. It's good for anti-aging, detoxification, circulation, really critical in cold and dry seasons. And I like to use coconut oil. Sesame oil is also a good one that you could use. Sesame oil is a bit thicker, and so it's not going to feel as good in the summertime. It might be a little too thick, but coconut oil absorbs nicely. Sesame oil better in the winter. This is also good for lymphatic drainage. Um, and everyone can benefit from this practice. They recommend that you do this before you shower because the water in your shower is actually dehydrating the skin. And anything that dehydrates us, like alcohol, smoking, excessive sun exposure, these things, drying is dying. So anything you can do to counteract those things, like adding oils to the nasal passages to the skin, this is going to help kind of undo that damage. Gandusha Kriya is oil pulling. This is another Kriya practice. It's just I use coconut oil, and you can just put a little bit of coconut oil in your mouth and swish it around when you first wake up. It cleans all the bacteria off of your teeth, the inside of your mouth. And then you would spit that out, then brush your teeth, then do the Jiva Nirlakan, which is tongue scraping. Some of you have probably seen tongue scrapers. It's just like a curved piece of metal. Copper is recommended, or stainless steel, but you could also, I mean, they have plastic ones, but go with the metal ones because plastic is chemicals, and we're already putting too much. We're surrounded by too much plastic, so don't use the plastic ones. And then Ushapan is ginger water, which I always drink first thing in the morning, and it's not. It's not the kind of thing where you want to be like, oh God, I got to get my ginger water and stress out. And if you don't enjoy it, don't do it. But it's just this time where I just like heat my kettle and I just put a little pinch of ginger. I just use this like, like powdered uh, ginger, like ground ginger root. You just put a pinch in your water and just enjoy the warmth of the cup and have a little sunlight on your face through the window, maybe water your plant. It should feel nourishing and not like stress you out. During the day, I like to practice mindful eating and taking a sacred pause. When you practice mindful eating, this is when you take a meal, you want to do it without watching TV, reading, listening, just like be with the food. Take a moment to be grateful that you have food. Put your silverware down between each bite. Chew mindfully. Notice the texture of your food before you swallow, and then pick up your fork or spoon for the next bite. So it's about slowing down because many of us we scarf down a meal in 12 seconds. We're not chewing, we're not tasting our food. We're just shoveling it in, and when you eat mindfully, you're awakening the cellular intelligence in your body. So it's really giving your whole digestive system a chance to get on board with what's happening. You're not just shoveling food in and then moving on with your day. And then the sacred pause we already talked about, but this is like you can put it anywhere in the day. It's great to do it right before your meal because you can just look at the food and have a moment to feel grateful for all of the hands that were involved in getting that food onto your plate and into your body to nourish you. Then there's like SOS practices, which are not for every day, but neti nasal wash. I was going to bring my neti pot, but I couldn't find it. But you just pour saline water through your nose in order to clean it out. But this is something you only need to do if you're suffering from allergies or if you have a cold coming on. Resonance breath is when you increase your exhale. So you count your inhale, and how it say if you have a 4 count inhale, you want to take an 8 count exhale. So it's just a nice, long, sustained exhale. This is like immediately going to reduce any kind of anxiety that you might be feeling. Nadi Shodhana is another Kriya. It's alternate nostril breathing. Usually people block the one nostril with the thumb and one with the ring finger. But I had a nasal surgery too, actually, years ago. And so when I press my nostrils, it doesn't, it just makes my nose run. It doesn't feel good. So I block from underneath like this. But you inhale through the left, and then you hold the breath, and then you exhale through the right. So you would just switch your nostril, then you inhale through the right, exhale through the left. And you can do this as many rounds as you like. But the benefit of the practice is that it's each nostril is attached to one half of the brain. So it's regulating right and left brain function. It's equalizing sort of your masculine and feminine energies, the solar and lunar. So if you're feeling out of balance, Nadi Shodhana or alternate nostril breathing is a great way to just sort of reduce anxiety and stress and to just bring yourself back to a neutral place. Clove in the cheek pocket, a lot of Americans don't know about this one, and it's so beneficial. I call it an SOS practice, but honestly, I do this every day. I just keep a jar of cloves. When I travel, I have a little tiny jar that I keep on me. If you're traveling, if you have any kind of like allergies, or you're around sick people, maybe you work in a hospital, if you keep a clove in your cheek pocket, this is going to prevent you from getting sick. It's anti-inflammatory, it soothes the throat passages, boosts immunity, it supports the oral microbiome, enhances respiratory health, and relieves nausea. And it tastes good. It's kind of like a breath freshener. So you can just suck on it or keep it in your cheek pocket, and you can actually sleep with it. You're not going to choke on it. You just keep it kind of tucked away in your cheek. And it's also really good for tooth pain. If you have any like if you have a sore tooth and you put a clove right there, it sort of numbs it. It's not recommended if you have ulcers or if you've had an oral surgery, like you want to give it some time before you use it. But otherwise, it's always good for you. Nighttime is Pada Abhyanga, which is Pada is feet. So it's same as Abhyanga when you're oiling the body, but you would just oil and massage the bottoms of the feet, because the feet are kind of like a microcosm of the whole body. And there's little acupressure points, which you could Google, like if you have liver disease, or maybe something's wrong with your gallbladder or your lungs, you can see exactly where on the foot that point is and apply pressure there to help alleviate that problem. But also it just feels good. It's soothing and it's easy. You could do it when you're sitting on the couch before you go to bed. If you have a partner, you can do that for each other. Viparit Karni is legs up the wall. So this is something that we know everyone's probably heard of it. It's really great for lymphatic drainage. It's good for like low back and leg pain. And if you have the easiest way for me to get into the position is to sit with my hips. So I'm sitting, like say the wall is right here. I get right up against it, and then I lay down and swing my legs up. And if that's not comfortable for you, you can also bring like a cushion or a bolster underneath your hips to kind of elevate the hips a little bit. But 3 to 5 minutes, all the way up to 30 minutes is a great way to relieve stress. It's relaxing, so it gets you ready for bed. It's good for circulation, kind of good for a whole lot of things. Also, it feels good. So if you have time at night, send your legs up the wall. And Nabi Puran is oiling the navel, which we don't think about a lot, but the navel is where we were attached to our mother, and that was where our nourishment was coming in. And so we don't think about it a lot, but oiling the navel and rubbing in a circular direction, either your coconut oil or your sesame oil, is a really soothing practice that is nourishing the body and kind of replenishing the microbiome in the skin, and it's helping with digestion and a whole number of things. Yeah, so how I learned to love the woman in the mirror. Ultimately, I discovered that I didn't like myself very much. And there was really no reason for me to not, because I'm above average in most of the things that I do. And I don't know, when I discovered that I didn't like me, I had to look really deeply into why that was. And also, I think I spent most of my life looking out into the world and wanting other people to like me and validate me and make me okay. But no one can do that for you. And even when I was in loving relationships, they weren't going to save me because I didn't love myself. And so there was no amount of love that I could receive that was going to save me. Um, when we fall in love with another person, it's not actually them that we're falling in love with, it's the version of ourselves that they awaken. Other people hold up this mirror for us, and we can only love someone else as deeply as we can love ourselves. So when I realized this, it became my number one priority to love myself more than anyone else ever could. And it's such a relief because honestly, I know what I need to feel loved, and I know what I need to feel supported and safe. And I know that for myself better than anyone else could ever know that for me. So now that I can give that to myself and not need it from someone else, I just feel safe. I feel cared for even though I'm single. I don't have someone taking care of me, but I always wanted to be independent and strong and self-sufficient, and I am. I got here on my own, which is great. And I loved this you don't need to find the one because you are the one. So just keep that in mind whether you're single or in a relationship. Um you're the one whose love you've been looking for all along. So this was the list I was telling you about, where I have a running list of the things that bring me joy. These may not be the things for you, but dance, sing, play, hike, yoga, roller skating, I love going for a long drive somewhere beautiful with the good snacks. Any sunrise and sunset does it for me. Slowing down, looking for rainbows, and learning, and also being kind brings me a lot of joy. So this for me, like, because I know the things that bring me joy, I make it a point to do one or many of these things each day. But you should just have a running list for yourself. It could be mental, it could be something that you write down. But if you know what brings you joy, if it's playing piano, reading a good book, cuddling with your cat, um, watching old movies, whatever the thing is that brings you joy, you need to prioritize that and do more of it, and you have the ability to do so. So this is also sort of a sample slide. It's not necessarily the things that are going to work for you, but for me, prioritizing joy, ritualizing my alone time, being kind to others, these things make me happy. I know that it's going to generate more wellness for myself, and like, treat yourself. This is like, I'll take myself on vacation. I'll buy the good chocolate, or if a new restaurant opens in my neighborhood, I don't need a date to make a date night for myself. I'm going to get dressed up and go enjoy that nice meal. Sharing the wealth. This is I find really important. Like, whatever it is that you have an abundance of, if it's knowledge, time, energy, money, whatever you have that you can give back, it feels good to give away your excess. You don't need it anyway. So when you have a lot of something, give it to the people around you. I mean, imagine eating a meal next to someone who is hungry. Like, that doesn't feel good. You're going to just share the food with them. That feels good. Practicing mindfulness and really prioritizing rest, top of my list for like things that make me feel good. So these are things that I make it a point to get to daily. And then I know that I'm maintaining my own wellness. These may not be your things, but you can look deeply into yourself and discover what it is that you need to be doing on a daily basis to feel good. Now, personally, I'm not a journaler. I do journal as an SOS practice. So if I'm struggling with something, if I'm grieving, if somebody's hurt me, that's the time when I'm going to journal. But I know a lot of people benefit from a daily journaling practice. So it's worth giving a try. Maybe you spend a week and try to journal for 7 days, see if it's a practice that works for you. And I put some journal prompts if you're not sure where to begin. Like listing the things that you appreciate about yourself, or writing a letter to yourself from the perspective of a good friend. One that I really love is describing a day in your ideal life. Like imagine that you have the life that you want, because frankly, if you don't know what you want, you're never going to get it. But if you really spend some time thinking about what does your ideal life look like and then describe it, what does a day in that life look like? That's a really fun practice. You could write about like something that's causing you stress, or about a situation that's draining your boundaries. And it really, with your journal, it should feel like you're talking to a good friend, so nothing is off limits. You can vent about the thing that's bothering you, or you can daydream about the thing that you want to manifest. It's really just a practice that should feel good and nourishing. And like I said, it's not something I do every day, but I know that it's beneficial for a lot of people, so I wanted to kind of share that with you in case it's a practice that works for you. And for me personally, I have found many of my biggest breakthroughs, and transformations at yoga teacher trainings and at yoga retreats. Like, this is where I come to life, where I evolve into the person who I'm really came here to be. So, because of that, I created some offers of my own that I can share with my community, and I wanted to share them with you. Um, the first one is Enlighten Up. It's a luxury yoga camp in Joshua Tree. This is the facility that we're going to be staying at. And we've rented out the whole place. So you can see there's like this labyrinth for walking meditation. There's a saltwater pool that's heated. There's a hot tub. Joshua Tree has its own magic. And it's if you've never been there, I highly recommend going. Like, the stars come down to you at night because there's no light pollution. It's in the middle of the desert, and it's just this magical, sweet energy, which is a great place for transformation. I have not actually been to this facility yet, but the pictures are so beautiful that I can't wait to be there. And I'm hosting this one. I'm co-hosting with my friend Roxanne, and we wanted this to have the feel of like summer camp for adults. So it's funny, I'm just realizing that I'm watching you guys over here on the side of my screen, so I've not been talking to the camera the majority of this time, but anyway. Yeah, Enlighten Up is supposed to feel like summer camp for grown-ups. And so we're doing, like, we have our physical activities, and we have arts classes and cooking classes, and you're completely taken care of. So 3 vegan meals per day are served. We have like the daily kind of yoga and meditation, and it's also discounted for groups of friends. So if you have a bestie, or you want to come with a sibling or a parent or your kid, it's meant to be fun, and that it's rooted in fun and friendship. So we have this discounted for groups, but also for the people who are in the class today. I'm giving a $200 off discount. Although for those of you who have been on retreat with me before, you already have a bigger discount, and you can't combine them. So you should use your original discount, because it's more than 200 off. But that one's going to be a lot of fun. And then right after that is the Art of Being in Hawaii. And this one is May 22nd through 30th. And it's at Kerpal Meditation and Ecological Center. And this place, it's like they're growing their own food, and it's been there for, I want to say, about 100 years that people have been going there and meditating. And so the land is sacred. There's this peaceful energy. They have this Balinese meditation hut. Two of you have been there, so you've seen it for yourself. It's magical. And also, just to be eating food that's grown on the land that you're living on it's a treat. It's definitely and this one, it's a little bit structured like a yoga teacher training. So we go like, we wake up at 6 a.m. and we meditate and do yoga together, and then a lot of we spend some time in silence leading up to that, and then after practice we all have breakfast together, and then go on adventures all over the island to like black sand beaches and volcanoes and waterfalls. And we're getting out there and experiencing Hawaii, as well as doing our yoga practices that are kind of like what we're doing here, just nourishing ourselves and coming home. So if you are interested in either one of those, there's a discount code, which is love 200. And if like you can apply that at checkout for 200 off either of those retreats. But then this year is the first time that I'm offering a 200-hour yoga teacher training, which this is really special for me because I took my first 200-hour yoga teacher training in Bali, and that's where I'm going back to teach on my first one. So I'm really excited about this. And again, this place, Sumberkima, where we're going to be staying, it's so beautiful that it was hard for me to pick a picture to put on this slide because every picture you could just stare at it. Just it. I can't wait to get back there. And there's something magic about this island as well, especially the city of Ubud, where everyone is a yogi. Everyone has their yoga mat. Um, everyone is like almost all the restaurants are vegan. There's no alcohol, no one's smoking. It's a very wholesome place where the people around you are all there doing the same thing that you're doing. And so it's really cool to be just like in that energy for a month, this is like almost an entire month of training. And then this is also a certification through Yoga Alliance. So if you're looking to get certified to teach or you want to just deepen your teaching practice, this is a great place to do it. And everyone who's on the staff for this one, they're all kind of alumni from the 300-hour teacher training that I did in India. So it will be kind of like a class reunion. And I'm also, I live in Las Vegas, so I teach at three studios here. But I'm starting to do online trainings as well. They can be done privately, or I'm going to start doing group drop-ins, which is just like donation based on a sliding scale. So if you can pay more, you pay more. If you can't pay, you can pay whatever you feel a yoga class is worth to you. And I wanted to start those in January, but things have been a little chaotic. So the goal is to have that started by March 1st. So you can check your email to stay on top of that. Because you're in the class, you are on my email list. So you'll see when I start offering those. And I think I'm going to send out just a kind of, not a questionnaire, but just take the temperature of the group to see what would be the best time for that. Because for me, I think it's going to be probably Monday between like say 10 and 12 my time, which may or may not be a good time for the people coming to the class. But I think what I'll do is have the live class that hopefully most of you can attend, those of you who want to do that. But then there will also be a recording available for a week. So if you're not available at 10 a.m. on Monday, you could take it on Tuesday or whatever. But it's better for more people to be in the live class. So I will probably reach out and see what is maybe I'll pick 3 time slots and then people can see what is the best one for them. But anyway, that's all I've got for you. We have a few minutes left. You're on my mailing list, so you're probably familiar with my website. I'm also on social media, mostly active on Instagram, but my Instagram posts go over to Facebook. So anytime I have an offer or a class coming up, I'm going to always post on there and then to my mailing list as well. So I'm going to get out of this. I see someone's got something in the chat, which I couldn't see. Oh yeah, Liv, I feel you. Pausing to allow time and space to fully feel my emotions. That's exactly right. We kind of sweep things under the rug, but that doesn't make them go away, as we know. And often when we push something aside, it just starts to fester. It gets bigger, and it's not going to go away until we deal with it. And we've seen that through our yoga practice. Like for those of you who don't practice yoga, it's a pretty common thing where if we get into pigeon pose, you'll hear someone in the room crying, not because they're physically hurting, but because pigeon pose, it gets into the hips and it just releases emotions, and anything that you've been hanging on to and avoiding dealing with, it resurfaces in that moment. And so it's kind of a joke among yoga teachers, like, like who's going to cry in pigeon pose today? But the pose itself feels really good. It's really sweet. And especially if you're a runner or a biker and you're using your legs a lot, it feels good, but emotionally it can be triggering for sure. Yeah, so if anyone has any other questions or comments, you can feel free to unmute yourself. But it was so nice to have you all here today. And this is being recorded. I'm fairly sure. Yeah, it is recording. So I'll send you a thank you email that will have the recording, and um, if you want any more information about like the Ayurvedic practices, or the meditation practices that I mentioned, I can include some resources to get more info about those. But otherwise, if no one has any questions, I'll just say thank you and stop the meeting here. Oh, you have a question? You can unmute yourself.
I am just curious if anybody, well, because we're all like love embodied, right? And we all, like whatever, love is every emotion changing clothing. So I'm imagining that everyone here already has a self-care practice that feels really resonant with them, that they just automatic. I'm just curious, like it's just, I don't know what it is in me, but I'm just like wildly curious what anybody cares to share that they really feel deeply nurtured by just embracing every single day, just organically. I just wonder what it is. I mean, and don't get me wrong, I embrace a lot of the practices that, Tori mentioned, but I'm just wondering from the group's perspective if there's anything that anybody's like, this is every day for me.
Yeah, do you guys have any practices that are important to you daily that you'd like to share? I know Rohan has a pretty solid meditation practice because we use the same app. And so uh, sometimes we see each other in the meditation room. Interested in the Ayurveda information. Okay, yeah, I'll include that in the thank you email.
Hi, it's Joe. I actually do have one.
Oh, what's your question, Joe? Or what's your
Oh,
comment?
my thing. So, part of the morning ritual I do, instead of, it's so tempting to get onto TikTok or social media first thing, I make it a
Mhm.
practice not to. Um, like just noticing 5 things in the room before I pick
Yeah.
up my phone. Like just be present, waking up instead of like switching gears and getting on the phone. And then after all of those things, one of the things ritual is getting my mind going. I have to do the New York Times games in the
Okay.
morning as part of my ritual. So
Nice. Get the brain working.
I think it gets the brain, and it's something I can achieve and feel proud of to start my day. Okay, that's all I have to say. Thanks.
I
Bye.
love that, Joe. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, I'm the same. It's very tempting to open the phone right when you wake up, and especially if you see a red number like on your messages or your social media, it's like you want to just open it right away, but I have trained myself out of that habit. I go to my meditation cushion first. I do my practice, I drink my ginger water, and then the rest of the world gets me. But I have to say, I have to make my morning sacred because I need that time for myself in order to be functioning optimally for the rest of the world. And if I open my phone and check my messages, then I'm responding not from the best place, or like once that social media has sucked you in, then you're not going to make it to the cushion, you're not going to get to the New York Times, the challenges that you set for yourself. So it is a really smart practice to avoid interacting with the external world before you've taken a little bit of time for yourself, even if it's noticing 5 things in the room or sitting on your meditation cushion for 5 minutes. Like that's plenty. You don't have to do a whole hour practice to come back to yourself before you get involved with the rest of the world. I love that. Did anyone else have anything they wanted to share or any other questions? No? Okay. So I will upload this video to YouTube, and then gather some of those resources on the Ayurvedic practices, which I recommend you trying all of them and then just seeing which ones resonate with you, and then keeping those, discarding the rest. It's just like with anything, like, religion or politics or whatever, like, observe it all, decide what's right for you. The rest of it, chuck it right in the trash. All right. Well, thanks for being here, guys. It was really a pleasure to spend the day with you, and I hope you get some benefit from some of these practices. So I'll end the meeting here. Thank you.